Hi everybody, for those of you that don't know me, my name is Tracy. I'm a rising senior at Hingham High School, and I'm here to talk to you guys about my project, my SILS project. It's called Solarizing. And the goal of this project is to build sustainable solar energy systems on all the religious institutions that are in my town. And the reason why I want to do this is because it generates clean, renewable energy, so it takes some of the dependence off of fossil fuels like natural gas, coal, and oil, which pollute the air and contaminate things like the water that we drink and the actual air that we breathe. And so a little bit about my town. It's located on the south shore of Massachusetts, so it's right outside Boston. The government of the town is an open town meeting, so it means that anyone who's of voting age can make motions to do different things and participate in the town meeting. Our population is roughly 20,000 residents, and the average household income is $100,000. There should be another zero on the end of that. So we're a fairly wealthy community, and Hingham's another one of those towns like you guys have heard about. They call them the bubble towns, where a lot of people just think about their own community and don't think of the effects that it has outside of themselves. And the number of religious buildings that we have in our town is 12, so those are 12 potential construction sites for this project. And why I chose to do a solar power project is because individualized, it's not like building a wind farm like Cape Wind or anything like that. So it's kind of easier. All you have to do is convince the one building that is implementing this project and then have to get it approved instead of getting the entire town to say, oh, we will tolerate looking at a windmill down by the beach or anything like that. Obviously, as I said before, it's renewable energy, so it doesn't generate as much of a carbon footprint. And being a senior, I'll be going to college next fall, hopefully. And so I only have about a year from now to complete this project, so the construction time relative to everything else is fairly quick. My plan is to use collective buying or crowdsourcing to buy solar panels that would drive down the total price of the overall project. I've found various models of towns that have done this and done this successfully. Portland, Oregon was the very first town to do it. A lot of communities in Washington State have done it. And they've even tried to do a couple in Massachusetts. The closest one to my town, Situate, did it, and so did Harvard. Harvard is now 4% of their population is powered completely by solar energy. And the reason why I chose to use churches is because there's a lot of them in my town. My town's a very old town. It was made when people came over all the way back in colonial times, and it's developed around religion. So I figured using public icons will rally people behind a certain building instead of trying to get every individual resident to buy in on this project. And this picture down here is the Solarized guidebook that the people from Portland, Oregon, who ran their project, they wrote this. So it's a very interesting read and it helps a lot. And this graph is the graph of solar panel installations. And as you see, early in 2010, all the way up through 2013, it continues to grow. Q4 of 2012 obviously was the most, and now we're in 2013, so there are still more and more residential solar panels and non-residential solar panels being installed. My timeline is from now, August 2nd, up through November 5th. My goal is to raise awareness and educate people on solar power and why we should use it and why this project is going to help. And then November 5th is the first town meeting in Hingham from now. So I plan to propose my project at that town meeting and hopefully it gets passed. And from November 5th and through the winter, I plan to do all of the fundraising and organization needed for this project. So that's organizing what contractors we're going to use, which companies we're going to buy our solar panels from, how we're going to do it, what construction sites are going to be done first and the order of them and everything like that. And then once the weather starts to dry up a little bit and all the snow melts around the town, and I figure that'll be March or April, that's when we'll start construction and start building these projects. And most projects take about 8 to 10 weeks to complete if they're worked on constantly. So I figured that by September of 2014, every project should be completed, and then I'll be going to college, so then I'll at least leave my mark back on him. The network that I plan to use is one of the churches in our town that's right on Main Street just tripled its size in this past 2 years. It's called the South Shore Baptist Church, and the head priest there is Father Rudolph, who knows my grandmother very well. My grandmother lives with me. She's 89 years old. She's gone to that church since we moved to Hingham 2 decades ago. And so I've known him since I was probably 6 or 7 years old. And he's a very friendly man, and I've reached out to him, and he seems very excited about this project. And he said that he was going to propose it to his church this coming Sunday. Paul Gannon is my father's best friend. He grew up with him on the Cape. They both went to Boston College together, and they both went to Suffolk Law together. Now we all live in Hingham together. So I've known him my entire life, and he's one of our town selectmen. So I plan to use him to get some of the legislation and the planning for the town meeting passed, and he's going to be really important for that. And also, Hingham has a conservation committee that is in charge of one of our parks. It's called Bear Cove. It's a dog walking park, and they kind of maintain that area. They make sure everything's up to date with owning rights to the land and things like that, so it can't be built over. It's going to stay as a park. And then my personal church is called Resurrection. It's headed by Father Ken, who's this nice man right here in the picture. He's a very friendly priest. He loves to get involved with youth action. He loves to be involved with this community. And I've also reached out to him, and he was even more excited than Father Rudolph about this project. He said he was behind me 100%. And then the youth minister to Resurrection her name is Mary O'Connor. And Mary O'Connor is basically a second mother to anyone from the parish. She loves to do things with kids and community service. She runs the CCD program. The lady gives up more of her own free time than I think anyone I've ever met to do community service and to teach kids about what she believes in. And I also, when I was a sophomore, I got confirmed, and so I finished my CCD program, but it still runs, and it's still all local Hingham kids, Norwell kids that attend Resurrection that are part of it. So they're a good base of support and volunteers if I need to call on them. And then at our high school, we have the Green Committee. It's run by our principal, Mr. Swanson, and our assistant principal, Mr. Swanson, who is really involved in making our school more and more green. The president of it is sitting right here in the same room, Greg Kinsella. And I know him pretty well, so so we can also work together and engaging with the student body and getting them to become involved in this project. Because not only is it making renewable energy, it's also a community building project. It gets people together to get involved in their community, which is always great. And I said that the activity and influence that this green committee has, especially in our high school, is very high. And then funding. Obviously, no project is ever free, and if you don't have the money, you can't build anything. So there's going to be two options for these churches and these temples to choose from when selecting their solar panels. They can either lease solar panels, just like leasing an apartment or anything else. You pay, there's companies that own their solar panels, and you can pay for the installation. You pay a monthly fee or a bi-monthly fee for the solar panels, and then they generate the electricity that will power your buildings. Or the other option, the more conventional option, is just to buy your solar panels outright. The average out-of-pocket project cost for a solar panel project like the ones that I'm proposing is about $3,000 when you factor in all the federal and state funding. Massachusetts offers $58.5 million in solar energy funding. It's through the Sunshot program. And also the Massachusetts Clean Energy Center. So there's a lot of money that is being invested in this industry, and so if we write requests and write grants for it, I'm sure that we can get a lot of money to help out this cause. And just to put it in perspective, like I said before, the South Shore Baptist Church just renovated and tripled its size, and that was a $12 million project that they raised primarily through collections and fundraising through their own church. So money really isn't that much of an issue for this project. It's just getting support and getting everyone on board. And then just to recap again, the goal is to build rooftop solar systems on all the religious institutions in my town. It starts tomorrow when I get back to Hingham, and it'll end when I go to college in next fall. And really, I just want Hingham to start down the road of owning their own energy and being a leader in this industry, and having other towns around us and residents of our own town saying, hey, look at what they did. They put solar panels on the rooftops. That's one, renewable energy so that it's conserving the environment, and two, they're not paying Hingham Light anymore for coal fuel or oil fuel that is harming our economy, or not harming our economy, harming our environment. And like I said before, I want it to trend and to lead into the residential and small business sectors of our town and of the South Shore in general, so that we can start getting off these resources that are not going to be here all the time and that are harming our own planet. Thank you. Yeah?
I remember when you first brought this to us, the big reason that you wanted to do the religious institutions was because in your town, religious institutions are allowed to, or were allowed to construct without getting permission from the local government. So, and I know you said that that's changed now, that's no longer happening.
I'll tell them about this because I told you. It used to be the old town bylaws that were from long before probably my parents even came to town, was that churches didn't need as much town approval to do construction projects because they were a religious building. And so then that's how the South Shore Baptist Church was able to triple its size. As long as it owned the property, it could do it, as long as it could pay for it itself. But then when people saw that all these churches could just become massive complexes because there was no real regulation, a lot of citizens made arguments to change that. So they're in the process of changing it, and by the time it took for me to fight that, so this could happen without approval, it would take more years than I have to use.
Right, so does that complicate things at all? Do you now have to go to the government as well?
I mean, I don't really think it complicates things that much, because you still need to get the community involved, and that's kind of part of the project. It's not, like I said, it's not just renewable energy, it's also community building. So I'm banking on the fact that once the community decides to support this project, they would vote it through anyway. It's just an extra step of making a proposal, which I'm doing at town meeting on November 5th. Yeah.
What group of people are you trying to make like your base that will help you do all of this? Because I know you're saying like, oh, I leave in September of next year, which makes sense. But what if you could keep a group that keeps this going even after you? Have you thought of anything like that?
So you mean after the church
Or
project?
to help you out, like someone to go with you to that meeting on November 5th, and someone to help you with all of this organizing.
Well, I plan, because a lot of people have such strong emotional ties to their certain church or certain temple, that it would almost be like you're doing it for your own parish or your own temple, but it's still benefiting the whole. So it's kind of a two-pronged thing. You're benefiting a community and you're benefiting your own church. So I would probably believe that a lot of the high school would get involved with the Green Committee, and then each parish or temple would have their advocates for it, and those groups working together. So it's kind of like how we learned about when there's like, instead of the pyramid of one person leading it and then they give orders to the next tiers, it kind of be more of that circle diagram where everyone talks about it and every group is represented, and you make decisions like that, almost like a committee or something like that. Alex?
So you have an economic argument, and I like the idea of the theological argument too that Wayne asked about earlier with the recycling project. Some people, though, object to the aesthetics of solar panels. They think they're ugly. And I wonder whether you think you're going to encounter any resistance from especially older members of these religious communities who don't want their churches defaced or something like that.
Absolutely. I mean, especially Gray and I know because we're from Hingham, they don't take anything, any change lightly. There's a lot of traditional people there. We were donated turf fields for one of our fields, and it was denied because they didn't want to have to look at it. So there is going to be resistance on that front, but it's a lot of things like we've covered this week where people think, not in my backyard, I don't want to have to deal with it, as long as I don't see it, I don't care. So there is that argument that I could have easily just thrown up a bunch of pictures of Camden, like we saw in New Jersey, and other places like that that are getting destroyed by these coal plants or these oil plants or these natural gas refineries or anything like that, and say, would you rather look at a little bit darker shade of black on your church roofs, or have people like this suffer? And like he said, the theological argument, you can say, everyone is God's children. Why are you why should you have more benefits than them?
I think that's a very powerful argument, the ethical, theological argument. I also like the church with the cross.
Yeah.
Maybe that will help, I'm not sure. But this is a very ambitious project, and it's a short timeline. I think it's possible. I think it's really exciting. So you have connections to two of the buildings that you want to put panels on. Is there an interfaith council or something in the South Shore?
Not as much, because a lot of the churches have different sects of Christianity or Catholicism, and then there's also a couple temples in there that are, so they all kind of do their own religious practices without not a lot of intermingling. But that's another thing that I'm honestly planning on going door to door and asking, who's in charge of you, or who would make a decision? Would you be interested in participating in this program? And it's obviously like I can't make them do it. So if they said no, I don't think we're interested in that, then okay, then I have 11 out of 12 buildings to do it on, or 10 out of 12, which is still more of a progression than just 0. So. Yes.
Have you thought about, like here, when we were talking about permaculture, they started with Franklin, and it was just like the first one, getting that one built, then allowed for them to do it in many different other places. Is there any one building or one specific thing that you think would have the most, sort of like the startup impact, so that everyone sees it as like, oh, okay, like this is happening?
I think more of how I'm viewing this project is this project is that Franklin Garden, and I'm looking at it in a bigger picture than just these 12 buildings. So it would be these 12 buildings to start, and they're public, so everyone every Sunday or every Saturday who goes to Mass is going to see solar panels every time they pull in the parking lot. And then this Franklin Garden, if you would say, would make other residents or small businesses or town hall or any other buildings like that, they would be the ones who would catch on the trend, not necessarily another church.